This here is the SsangYong Musso. It's just been updated for 2024 and it's still one of the best value utes on the market in Australia. I'm going to tell you all about it in this review. So please do like and subscribe and let's get to it. The SsangYong Musso is available with 3 different trim grades in Australia. So keep in mind that each of them can have either a short wheelbase body or an XLV long wheelbase version, which is $1,500 more. And if you need the most practical Musso that you can get, then that's the one to choose. And just keep in mind that the pricing that I'm going to tell you in this review is all national drive-away pricing. So you won't get stung by the dealership with any unexpected add-on costs for dealer delivery or handling or whatever it may be. Rightio. The entry level ELX, $40,000 drive away, $41,500 for the XLV, and it gets some pretty good features, including the new twin 12.3-inch screens on the inside. Now they are new for this update and it includes Apple CarPlay, and also you've got that big touchscreen media system, which, well, misses a few controls, but it is pretty good. And then you've also got the driver info display as well, which is very, very high-tech looking and actually is pretty easy to use too. Now, if you step up to this model here, which is the Adventure, you get a few different features, including bigger 18-inch black alloy wheels, which look great, and you also get coil springs only. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on, but if you choose this grade, you also get some nice features on the inside over the base model, including leather accented seat trim. You've also got heated and cooled front seats and those big screens, which I mentioned already. And there's a few other really nice features I'll tell you about in the interior section. And then the top spec model, well, the ultimate, is the ultimate Musso. It is a little bit more expensive, but you're getting a heap more standard equipment, including a different interior look and feel, and you've also got a heated steering wheel as well. Plus, you also score some stuff that you might really, really want, including a surround view camera and a bunch of added safety technology, which the entry-level grades don't get. And the top spec model also gets HID headlights, not LEDs, but at least they're better than the halogens on the lower spec models, which are pretty rubbish. Okay, so what could you consider as an alternative to this ute? Cheap utes aren't as cheap as they used to be, but there are still some really good value-focused dual cab vehicles on the market in Australia. So the first one and the best alternative to this ute is the GWM Ute. Now it comes in a bunch of different variants, starts at a very low price point, and there is also a new top spec XSR off-road version, which is pretty well packaged and offers a lot of off-road stuff for your money. But there's also cab chassis versions of that ute as well, and a 4x2 model as well. So hey, it does hit the mark for tradies as well as people who want a dual cab ute for family use. It's packed with safety stuff, has a really long warranty, and really it's the benchmark when it comes to affordable dual cab utes. But hey, another ute you might want to check out is the LDV T60 Max. So it comes with a few different versions available as well. And just like this, it comes with a long body version called the Megatub, which I love that name, but it does offer a fair few different options for buyers out there and really attractive pricing too. So it could be a good ute for tradies or families, depending on what you're looking for. And finally, if you don't like the look of either of those and you want a maybe more mainstream branded model, check out the Volkswagen Amarok. The entry-level versions of that ute offer lots and lots of stuff for the money, at about $53,000 before on-road costs though. So you're looking at a fair bit more money, but I reckon you might be getting a fair bit more ute if that's what you want. Tell me what you think in the comments section below, and if you haven't already, please do check out those other reviews. You'll find links in the description so you can do that. As I already mentioned, there are 2 different lengths available for the SsangYong Musso. This one here is the long boy, the XLV, and it is 5.4 meters in length. So as you can see, it is very, very long. A lot of that is to come down to the tray there, and it's also got a slightly longer wheelbase. So if you need a big tray, then this could be a really good ute for you. And now I'm going to show you just how practical the back of this beast is. Let's have a look. Okay, so this Musso has an accessory soft tonneau cover fitted. You don't get that as standard, you just get an open tray, but you do get a nice soft damped, well, relatively soft damped opening. You don't get that in something like a $75,000 Hilux GR Sport. So that's nice to see. You also get a tub liner as standard, which is one of those scratchy, plasticky ones that isn't going to be as grippy as a spray-in liner, but at least it's there to protect the paint underneath. Now, inside the tray, you will find 4 tie-down points, and I'm going to show you some dimensions right now to give you an idea of how much space you have to play with. And yes, if you choose the XLV, you get a lot more. There's an extra 325 millimeters of tub length, so more than a foot of extra space available to you if you choose the XLV. So it does seem like one of the most practical dual cab utes when it comes to tub space. And you also get a full-size alloy spare wheel under the body of the vehicle. The big talking point for this updated version of the Musso is, well, these new big screens. So all versions come with a new big 12.3-inch touchscreen media system up here. It's very, very big and prominent. You've also got a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster in front of the driver as well. So it does bring this car up to a nicer level in terms of technology and usability as well, to a degree at least, because, well, there's still some elements that maybe could be more user-friendly. There are no buttons or dials here for your media controls anymore, so you have to do a bit of that through the screen or using the controls on the steering wheel. There's no volume knob down here either, so it's the driver's responsibility to keep an eye on the volume at all times, but I don't think that's a deal breaker. There's also a climate control panel down here. So you've got digital climate control settings in this car. Just weirdly, it's only got 1 decimal point in the temperature settings. So on this side, it's 22.0. On this side, it's 220 degrees Celsius. It's a bit of a weird thing, but yeah, it's not actually pumping out that kind of heat. You've got these haptic controls for the climate down here as well. It's not actually a button, it's just a touch controller. Then you've also got your temperature control on the other side too. Nice to see that there are some hard buttons for some functions for the air conditioning. So the air conditioning has a button. There's also a recirc button as well, and you can adjust through the modes for the fan as well. So look, that's all great to see. Down below there, you'll see you've got heated and ventilated seat controls for the Adventure and the Ultimate versions of this vehicle. That's really nice on a really hot day or a really cold day. And if you buy the top spec model, you also get a heated steering wheel. Now, the steering wheel is something I want to talk about because it's kind of hard. It's got like a sharpish edge to it, and it's not the most comfortable thing to hold on to for long periods of time. It's a weird shape as well, and it feels quite large in your hands, but thankfully the controls on it are all very sensible and you're easy to come to terms with. You've also got pretty sensible stalks, although they're back to front, so your left one is your indicator and your right one is your wipers. Now, the finishes and materials in here are pretty good as well. You've got this sort of perforated look fake leather trim across the dashboard. The seats are this leathery finish as well, and I think that they are pretty comfortable, although not the most comfortable seats. And this one seems to have a bit of a rattle to it at times as well, which is not great. Now, storage, a couple of cup holders, bottle holders in the doors, a covered center console bin. You've got a manual handbrake in all grades as well. And you've still got this weird shifter movement, which sort of, I don't know, it's just a bit strange. But anyway, you've got USB-C ports here, no wireless phone charger, which might be a bit annoying for some customers, especially considering that you do get a wireless Apple CarPlay system with this screen. Although I had problems with the wireless Apple CarPlay. I finally got it to work using a cable after 4 or 5 drives of this car with different cables. So yeah, make sure it works for you if you're buying this ute. All right, let's check out the back seat. Rightio, don't be fooled into thinking that if you buy the XLV, you're getting more cabin space, because you're not. So this is a tight-ish back seat. This seat is set for me at 182 centimeters or 6 foot. As you can see, my knees are hard up against the seat back, so it's not necessarily going to be the most comfortable ute if you have taller back seat occupants that are going to be in here all the time. But it might not be that big of a deal for you. For example, if you have kids, then look, you'll be happy to know that it does have ISOFIX points in the window seats and 3 top tether points as well. Not just the single top tether like so many Utes out there. There are 3 dedicated points behind the seat. Now, one big thing with this Ute, which I think is an absolute joke, is this. This is a lap-only center seat belt. SsangYong really should be doing something about that, because all the other Utes in this segment now have a proper lap sash seat belt. Yeah, not fantastic. Okay, thankfully there are some features that you might appreciate in the back seat. You've got directional air vents, you've got mat pockets on the seat backs, and they're those hard plastic seat backs as well. So if you do have kids, they can kick to their heart's content. You've also got bottle holders in the doors, and in the middle here you've also got a flip down armrest with cup holders. So if you're going to use this as a 4-seat Ute, that probably won't matter to you. Or if you're going to put a child seat in there all of the time, it might not matter as much to you. But I still don't think that any new car for a 2024 model year should have a lap only center belt. All versions of this Ute come with a 2.2 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, but keep in mind that if you choose the XLV long wheelbase version, you get an extra 20 Newton meters of torque to help it carry around all the extra weight and size that comes with that XLV body style. Now, there's an automatic transmission as standard. There is also 4x4 as standard, selectable 4-wheel drive. So basically it's ticking the boxes, apart from the fact that it doesn't have the most power and torque for a dual cab Ute of this size in particular. Keep in mind though that it does have good towing capacity. The maximum brake towing capacity is 3.5 tons, so it does tick that box really well. Now when it comes to payload capacity, I'm going to put some figures on your screen. You'll notice that the XLV version of the ELX has the most capacity because it has leaf springs at the back. So if you need a load lugger, it's going to be the one to choose. But the other versions, the higher grade models with the long wheelbase or short wheelbase, come with coil springs all around. So that might be something you want to keep in mind. So what's the Musso like to drive? Well, there haven't been any dramatic changes to this car in terms of how it drives compared to the pre-update model. So it doesn't drive any differently to what came before it, but what came before it was still pretty good. I wouldn't say that it's the most mind-blowing experience. It's also not the most refined experience, but what it is a vehicle that's designed to do a job and do it for a reasonable price, and it does it pretty well. So firstly, I'll talk about the engine. So it's a 2.2 litre, as I mentioned, and the power and torque figures actually might seem a little bit misleading, because in my experience with this rig, you do find that it does a better job when you're asking more of this engine. So if you happen to be towing or you happen to be loaded up, then you will find that it does feel like it's got a bit more grunt. And look, on its own, in this sort of situation where it's just me, no load, no towing, it is grunty enough. It feels like it's got enough pulling power to do the job easily. Although I will say that the automatic transmission can be a little bit clumsy at lower speeds in particular. It can sort of shuffle between gears a little bit. And as well, when you come up to a steep hill climb at highway pace, you might find that it jumps around the gears just a little bit. But I don't think that it's a deal breaker, not by any stretch of the imagination. And there's also a manual shifter if you wish to take matters into your own hands. You can do that. It's just one of those ones that's on the side of the shifter rather than paddle shifters. The drive experience otherwise could be better. Look, partly the issue here is the ride, partly is the steering. So in this grade, you get a speed sensitive steering system. You don't get it in the base model, you do get it in the one above as well. But what it does is at really higher speeds, so like 110 k's an hour, it adds this weird heaviness to the steering. Even as you slow down to like 80 k's an hour and go through a corner or whatever, you do find that the steering just has this strange resistance to it. And it's not very reassuring. In fact, it's quite bloody annoying, especially if you are the sort of person who does a lot of that higher speed driving. You might find it to be a bit tedious. Now, At lower speeds, I think that the steering is pretty good though. It's very manageable, and it's also pretty direct and accurate when you are trying to park. Remember, this is a bloody big ute, so it can be difficult to park. Thankfully, the steering does help out in that regard. Now let's talk about the suspension. So, as I mentioned, it's just me, no load, and you can feel the bumps underneath you. In fact, at times the suspension in this vehicle is quite clumsy in the way that it deals with bumps. So it's like you can feel the whole body. It is a body on frame vehicle, remember. It's like you can feel it shimmying every now and then, and that's the sort of thing you used to get in the last generation of new utes, not so much in the new generation utes. So even the most affordable new generation utes don't tend to be quite that agricultural feeling in terms of the way that they sort of don't shimmy and shudder over bumps quite as much as this vehicle does. But look, if you know that's what you're expecting, if you're trading up from a 30-year-old ute or something like that, this is going to feel like a mind-blowing experience, because it is otherwise pretty decent in terms of the ride. Just keep in mind, sharp edges, you'll notice them. And look, I should also mention it does have a lane departure warning system. So it's not like some other systems which will push you around in your lane. It just will beep at you if you go outside of the lane markings. And thankfully it's very easy to switch off. It's just a simple button on the steering wheel. You do have to turn it off every time you drive the car though, if you don't want it on. There's only regular cruise control, no adaptive cruise control, which is a bit weird and a bit of a shame. Some commenters have already said that they've wanted to see that, and it's a shame that we haven't been able to get that for this update in Australia for whatever reason. But look, I think that's probably one of the issues that you might have to weigh up whether it's right for you or not. There are a few other considerations, obviously, but it does feel on the whole like a pretty, well, decent ute. I wouldn't say it's a great one, but it is decent. Now let's talk about fuel efficiency. So on your screen you'll see the official combined cycle figure for the short wheelbase versions of the Musso ute, and now I'll show you the XLV long wheelbase consumption figure. That's what you should be able to achieve across a mix of driving, and that's pretty efficient for a big ute like this. And in the real world, you'll see on your screen now what I saw over a week of testing, including a mix of driving, and look, I think that is pretty real world efficient. There is no applicable safety rating for the SsangYong Musso in Australia, so that could rule it out for you, your family, your business, or you might just be so turned off by the fact that it's still got a lap-only center rear belt that you don't buy this vehicle. I could understand that. That's ridiculous if you ask me. Now, there is some standard safety technology across the entire range, including a form of autonomous emergency braking with forward collision warning. You get cruise control, but not adaptive cruise control, and you also get a lane departure warning system, but it won't actually correct you, won't keep the car in your lane for you. So it is a bit behind. At least you get hill descent control. You've also got a hill hold assist, rollover protection. All versions also come with a reversing camera and parking sensors too. If you choose the top spec model though, you do get a surround view camera system. You also get blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert. All things that you should get across the entire range in my opinion, but you have to spend up to the top spec model to get them in the SsangYong Musso. It's not great. SsangYong backs its cars in Australia with a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty, which is the benchmark level of ute warranty without having to delve into the terms and conditions too much in the warranty paperwork. So there's also 7 years of roadside assistance included and a 7-year cap price servicing plan. So that spans out to 105,000 kilometres because they're 15,000 intervals. And per service, you're looking at $375 for the first 7 services. So yeah, it seems to stack up pretty well. The SsangYong Musso is still a very good value ute. Look, it's not the most refined vehicle, and I do think that a GWM ute does tick the box just a little bit more convincingly in that regard, as well as for the value for money side of things, especially if you do value safety technology. But hey, if you don't, and you want something that is a bit more simple, then one of the versions of the SsangYong Musso could be right for you. And if I was you, if you want a Musso, I'd still be buying the top spec one, because I think it is really good value for money. But tell me what you think in the comments section below. Would you choose one? If you wouldn't, why not? I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.